Welcome to Practically Political. I'm Dave Spencer.
And I'm Carrie Sheffield, and we are thrilled here at Practically Political to introduce you to our friend, Masada Siegel. She is an award-winning journalist and all-around world traveler, incredible just thinker, very empathetic person. And we're thrilled to have her here. And she really cares about people. She's a very compassionate person. She and I don't necessarily agree on some things political, which we'll get into, but I think we want the same outcome. We just have different pathways to get there. And I'm excited for this journey that she's going to be joining us. Welcome, Masada.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Great to have you.
Well, let's get right to it. I'm going to get to our first question. I'm going to throw it to Dave first. So Dave, look, you know how I feel about Joe Biden's ideas, but this one, his latest, I think really takes the cake of just like, what is this guy doing? He basically wants to tax investments up to 86%. And as far as I'm concerned, this is, while people are already suffering from inflation, you have about $7,000 lost per capita since Joe Biden took over the White House. So why is he doing this? Why doesn't he focus on things that have bipartisan compromise instead of something that's going to be done on arrival in Congress?
Well, first of all, this is one of these things where, I have a better chance of winning the Boston Marathon than this becoming a law. I think it was another gaffe or whatever, because he knows there's absolutely no chance that that's going to happen. And look, there are a lot of politicians, of course, I'm not going to mention names. I can think of a certain former president who says things and people are like, oh, he doesn't really mean it. Don't worry, it'll never become law. So I think what's been very interesting, the dynamic is that the Democrats actually have been very soft on tax increases. I'm not saying I'm for them, but because a lot of their constituents are now becoming higher income, more suburban, more highly educated voters, they're not so crazy about raising taxes. So remember that budget bill last year was going to have all this tax bite. In the end, it didn't even get rid of the carried interest loophole. So I think this is all bark and no bite. It's just media hype.
Well, that's very interesting, Dave. I think that the reality is that Democrats are spending like there's no tomorrow. The way they spend, the fact that we have not only our current debt levels, but the future debt levels. Currently, we're at well above where we were for the World War II spending, and now the debt to GDP is going to balloon even well above World War II. So I think we're on a fiscal train wreck, and I think the fact that when it comes to the debt ceiling, like Joe Biden is not interested in coming to the table and having a good faith effort. The Republicans have put forward the proposals. They want to claw back some of the COVID funding. There are just lots of things. And Dave, I know you have a lot to say on the debt ceiling. I mean, what's your read on that?
Well, first of all, I would say one thing again. I think it's a little disingenuous because this concern about spending only happens when there's a Democrat in the White House. 1/4 of more than that of our entire debt was accumulated under Trump. He was the most profligate president ever. But having said that, the debt ceiling, I think we're spending too much. There's no question. But if you have a spending problem, you don't address it by first bouncing the payment to the credit card company. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So don't jeopardize the full faith and credit of the U.S. Pass the debt ceiling. Let's have some serious spending negotiations after that. That's the way it would happen during Trump with the Democrats. What do you think, Masada?
I think it's all about responsible leadership all around. As you guys know, I'm very middle of the road, and I think everybody has a responsibility to play. I am not an advocate, even though I'm labeled as the more liberal person. I am not an advocate of raising taxes. The United States really needs to learn how to budget. I mean, end of situation is that we need to learn how to budget. Just like when you teach your kids how to budget, we need to not punish. I mean, basically, when you raise tax on people who are working really hard, and I was looking through the numbers are raising taxes on people who make over $400,000 a year. Well, that might sound like a lot, but I know that I go to the grocery store and it's $100 on fresh fruit and vegetables. I mean, prices are going up. $400,000 is not the same amount today as it was years ago. I do not believe in punishing people for working really hard. So that's one side. On the other side, in terms of budgeting and the debt ceiling, we really need to look at the numbers. I know in Washington, because I've spent some time there, there's a lot of political games that go on. Everybody wants to get reelected. I mean, one of my proposals is if you're a congressperson or you're a senator, maybe you should take a salary cut. Why don't we discuss that? Why don't we discuss the fact that many of these people, not all, have the ability to pay for their own health insurance? They have the best health insurance. A lot of us are paying for health insurance on our own. So maybe the place to start is to start at home. And I think some of these Congress people, a lot of them have plenty of money. They don't need the money. Let's be responsible. Let's not cut funding for children who need food for school. I mean, that is the worst possible place to cut funding. So I think it's really about, let's stop negotiating and stop trying to get reelected, and let's really do the hard work, the boring hard work. Those are some of my thoughts this morning.
Well, and I would just add one final thing that really, when you think about it, they've taken defense off the table and they've taken entitlements off the table. So you're talking about 1/6 of the budget, which is basically up for negotiation. It's just not realistic and I agree on either side, because we are definitely spending way too much.
Well, I think we all agree on that. So that's good to hear. I mean, I do think that some of the proposals are very reasonable. They want to take back the unspent COVID funds. They want to say, people, if you want to get welfare, you have to work. That shouldn't be controversial. The vast majority of Americans agree with that statement, yet not in the Democrat Congress. And then you also have wanting to say that some of these clean energy green giveaways shouldn't be put forward because they aren't proven. Anyway, I think we're all in agreement. We shouldn't waste money, but we all want to prioritize what's good. I think that's the universal thing.